Hello and welcome to the Knowing Show. I am your host, Christine Marie, and I am so excited to be chatting tonight to effectively set the stage for what is coming tomorrow. Tomorrow is the Knowing Experience, specifically a workshop dedicated to the foundations of knowing, diving into who we are and the structure and the stories and all of which go into what makes you and me respective from each other and unique. And then how do we translate that into alchemizing it for the purpose of our brand to effectively have a through line from within us into the outer world? And I'm so excited to be here with Kasim Aslam because he heard about the workshop and decided that he wanted to make it available to everyone in his network. And Kasim, I'm so excited you're here. Thank you for joining today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I just realized that your social channels are connected, I think. So people will be able to tune in on both platforms. And y'all, I want you all to ask questions tonight because the goal is that we really can engage with you now in preparation for tomorrow. And here are some questions that you might have. Kasim, you heard about this experience that I'm hosting tomorrow, but you've also been involved in a number of knowing experiences. This one is a different manifestation of a knowing experience. It's a workshop tomorrow, but over the last year, you've attended a retreat, done the Known Founder with me, and you wanted to offer this to your community, and I just would love to know why. Like, why are you hoping that people would come tomorrow, and why is that actually of importance to you? What it is that knowing is?
First, just the elephant in the room. It's dinner time. So everybody,
So what
welcome.
you're saying is I need to talk for a decent amount of time to allow you
No,
to.
I'm gonna talk with my mouth full. I have no shame at all. I just want everybody to know I've been on calls all day. I haven't had a chance to eat, so this is what we're doing. I
What we're
appreciate
doing.
the context, the introduction, Christine Marie.
And y'all, just I actually shared this in Kasim's 3X Freedom community a little bit ago. Kasim, the fact that he's hosting this shows what kind of a leader and founder he is. The fact that he cares about effectively the human being behind the business and the human beings in the business. It shows up in the way that even the business entities that he's begun, Pareto Talent, that he's a co-founder of, really investing in human beings. And it's so obvious in his community. And Kasim, I hope you don't mind just sitting here for a second while I say this. When he announced this workshop, so many folks were really, man, it was wild, the kind of comments and encouragement that people were giving him. Like, Kasim, you're constantly giving to us, and this is exactly what I need. And really the type of leader that Kasim is really is shown here in this moment of caring about the people and the individuals, but also empowering them to know how to invest in themselves, which is ultimately the greatest asset in their business. So with that, Kasim.
Well, hard to follow. Um, I launched a free forever community called 3X Freedom. And my goal with the community, and maybe my goal in life right now, is to help people achieve the three levels of freedom, which have evolved since I started talking about this, which is actually kind of a fun meta analysis of the levels. The first level is freedom from limitation.
Hmm.
Limitation is a lot of things. People think usually in terms of financial limitation, but limitation of time, being constrained to a single location, health, sickness can be a limitation. So freedom from limitation, freedom of purpose, because often if you're not limited by, if your freedom isn't hamstrung by limitation, you're still not fully free unless you're free to pursue your purpose. And then freedom to evolve. The thing that's interesting is what you do, I think, is so critically important. First, is a prerequisite. I don't think people can experience true freedom until they know. They
Hmm.
need to know themselves. They need to know what freedom is, what freedom means, why freedom's important. As a friend, you've often asked me, "What do you want?" And
Hmm.
it's shameful sometimes how hard that is for me to really conjure up an answer to. What do you want? Because I don't
Hmm.
know. I think knowing is so important, and I think knowing is extraordinarily important for the second level of freedom, especially, which is purpose.
Hmm.
And I think achieved freedom from limitation to a pretty significant degree. I've got money. I can do pretty much anything I want, wherever I want, whenever I want. Although that still seems to be less true. Like today, I'm on a bunch of calls that I didn't even necessarily want to be on, but I have friends that I love, and so I did that for them.
Hmm.
And once you achieve freedom from limitation, the freedom of purpose thing comes glaring at you. And so, what I wanted for my community, especially, was maybe to protect them from my fate, which is to start asking those questions too late. And I actually believe really strongly in the things that you teach, which is obvious. I brought you in to speak to my employees. We actually flew you down to Bogota, Colombia. For those that don't know, Pareto Talent flew Christene down to do a session with our executive staff. I've done private coaching with you. I've done, quite a few knowing dinners and events. I'm a big believer, and I think this can be for many, many people the lead domino. It's the first step they need to take in order to really start making impactful and tangible change. And so, for those of you that don't know, you can join tomorrow. Um, we're I'd like to say, in as much as something like this is possible, 3X Freedom is sponsoring the event. It's
Hmm.
tomorrow at noon Eastern, 12 p.m. Eastern, and Christene is going to be walking us through the foundations of a knowing framework. And I think that this is the beginning of um, it's the beginning of the growth trajectory towards 3X Freedom. And the thing that you and I have been playing with that I'd love to share with other people, and maybe this turns into something bigger than even just this event, is it's knowing and freedom. It's knowing freedom, uh, which
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about. So I'd love, if you don't mind, turning the tables on you. I'd
Hmm.
uh, I'd love for you to talk to people about like your core thesis, your work, why you're doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
and maybe a little bit about what they're going to learn tomorrow.
Mm. I appreciate the element around like the core essence of why, because I think unless we know why we're doing what we're doing, even just last week I was moderating a fireside chat with the CMO of the fastest growing company in the US, and I asked him, what effectively keeps you going for young founders, entrepreneurs, when the going gets tough, because he was able to successfully build a business, sell it, and then become the CMO for the company that acquired his, and is now an investor. And he said, he was like, man, if you've got a good why, that why
Mm.
will sustain you in every regard, especially Kasim, as the world is entirely changing. Who was I? Oh, I was on a webinar today. I was moderating another conversation with two folks from Harvard, and they were brilliant. Uh, both of whom actually were talking about this very thing of why, knowing who you are. And one of my clients, actually, Paul Sheasley, he talks about the inner architecture, and he's a performance coach and a psychotherapist, and really just pulling in the element of, if you're not clear about who you are, why you are, and having something that really grounds you when the wind comes, you're going to blow right over, rather than having the why that keeps you up at night and keeps you going in the storm. So I digress, but I appreciate that you asked about that, because my why, when it comes to what I really hope to achieve, really does come down to, we have a fundamentally broken system. We're trained on IQ from kindergarten all the way through, some folks college, some folks beyond that, some folks, high school, but we spend so much time and effort and energy on the IQ and the cultivation thereof, that we miss these other parts of what makes each one of us human, especially with AI, artificial intelligence coming in. It's threatening the intellectual intelligence, and frankly causing all of us to look in the mirror and say, what even makes us human in the first place? Our intellect is literally a very small part of it, and it's being capitalized. It's not even just being capitalized, it's being outrun, outpaced, outshined by a technology. And so, okay, well, what do we have left to show for who we are? And so when we cultivate the other intelligences within us, we really come to not just exist in this world, but be able to live. I felt like I woke up the day that I looked in the mirror for the first time. I felt like, I distinctly remember walking down my little long driveway, gravel driveway 4 years ago, and I felt like I could see color again for the first time. And even
Wow.
my sister the other day, she was just mentioning a meme that she saw, said that, everything's black and white. We view the world black and white. Everything's a little bit more dull as an adult. And I was listening to her say this, and I was like, man, but I actually feel like everything's more vibrant now. But it wasn't always that way. For the majority of my 20s, I was living so much oriented towards who everyone else needed me to be, who everyone else said I should be, their expectations, their opinions, their future, rather than living from within, guided out, where within is my nucleus and the through line is perpetuated from within. Within is the source. And then that extends into the outer world rather than the outer world being the through line in towards me. So when that changed, that's when everything became so beautiful and so vibrant. And I can even remember, like, memory is actually a KPI for me. Can I actually remember what just happened yesterday? Because that's a KPI that I was present and actually engaged in my life and truly living it rather than living for somebody else. And we just live in a really broken system, and I want to fix that. And we're slowly fixing it. I mean, even just having knowing dinners, you mentioned those earlier, just reframing the way that we have conversation among colleagues rather than constantly asking the question of what do you do? Where do you live? How much money do you make? It's, well, what are your values? How do you make the decisions that you do? What are the driving forces? And then the core beliefs underneath those. Viktor Frankl says between stimulus and response is choice. And it's that space that choice resides. Yet every choice is predicated in a belief. So we're forced to reckon with not just the external, the results of kind of the decisions that we make, but okay, what's the choice? And then what's the belief holding that then translates into the external world. And we don't take enough time to actually examine the inner self and inner nature of the human, and we just observe everything external. And so I really am excited to take time to reverse that and reverse engineer it so that we start with the self first. So that was a very long answer to your question.
I love that. For people watching and listening, number one, that we should say the call tomorrow is free, or free to you, we should say. I really believe you're worth knowing.
Yeah.
If you're watching or you're listening, I'm, and the older I get, the more romantic I get about this opinion, but I think every human is a miracle. I think every person is a literal miracle. I think every person is a splinter of the divine, is God incarnate, is a manifestation of that which can't even be articulated, like is a singularity. And I actually think everybody thinks that's pretty much true about others. It's hard to think that about yourself, but it's pretty easy to think that about other people. And if you can turn the lens inward a little, if that's true, and suspend disbelief with me and pretend that it's true for just a moment, even if you don't believe that, then not only are you worth knowing, it's actually your responsibility.
Yes.
Like, it's your responsibility to know. There's a biblical quote that I'll summarize, and maybe I'll find it to quote it, but I think Christ says something like, that which is within you, if brought out, will save you, but if left in, will destroy you. You know what I'm referring to?
I sounds familiar. I'm not sure exactly which.
Yeah,
Context.
I need to find it to make sure I'm quoting it properly. Hold on. Hold for Google. But the sentiment behind it, I think, is so critically important. It's interesting. So it's non-canonical ancient Christian text. This comes from the Gospel of Thomas, and so all of a sudden, here I am, being a heretic. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. And these are the Gnostic Gospels.
Wow.
And so, feel free to.
That is so powerful. Good Lord. Oh my gosh, keep going.
Well, I actually think that's maybe the core message of Christ, which, says something about how or why it was left out in the first place. But, and regardless of whether or not you're religious, I don't think I'd characterize myself as, strictly speaking, as religious with a capital R, but I do find value and benefit in,
I love, can we just like double click on what you just said? That was the core message of Christ, which is probably why it's not included in
Which
the
is probably
Bible.
why it was left out.
I was like, we can't just skip that. I did only one time have I had anyone join me on Sundays, which is when we talk about the spiritual intelligence. So for those of you who just joined, I was mentioning that one of the core reasons why knowing exists is because we've spent far too much time solely focused on the intellectual intelligence, and there's others that are involved in what makes you and I human. And one of those is the spiritual intelligence. And Sundays I dedicate to discussing the spiritual intelligence. My brother came on actually as a guest on the Knowing Show on a Sunday, and it was one of my favorite conversations. And we were talking about exactly that for the most part, those who most profusely and adamantly acclaim and espouse Christ are perhaps those who are furthest from it. And you saw that in the biblical text with the Pharisees. But I digress. I just thought that was a clever sentiment that you made, and it made me chuckle.
A little bit of a grenade lobbed in whatever
Yeah.
direction. I was raised Southern Baptist, so I have all those,
And I really love God. Like I really, really do. And that's part of the reason why it's hard to claim any kind of faith, is because so many who do, the loudest ones, it's like, that's not the God I know.
Maybe returning to our core thesis here. If you're watching or you're listening, you're worth knowing. And my friend Christine Marie, who's been my best friend for years now, I don't know anybody better than you at this particular endeavor. Like, you really have made a study of what it takes to know. And it's easier than people think in practice, meaning the mechanism to knowing is more accessible than you might assume. And then it's harder than you think in implementation, so like it hurts. There's some
Yeah.
burning of dead wood, but also in the best way, because when you get on the other end of it, you're just so grateful to be kind of released of those shackles. So, this is not for the faint of heart. This is real work. I've never seen you go skin deep. It's always deep dive.
Yeah.
And I think I'd maybe, try to attract and repel here. Like, for those of you that want to do the work, want to dive deep, really want to know, want to make progress, tomorrow's for you. And for those of you that aren't ready, and Christine, protect me from myself as I say this, but I hope to God someday you find this work, and it really is not for the faint of heart. It can't be.
Right.
Would you disagree with what I just said?
No, I completely agree. There's a death that needs to occur for a rebirth, for something new. And I think it's actually so important that for every single person attending, and I actually have a little form here for people to fill out beforehand, because I really want to get a good feel on just the environment of the room as people join. Y'all, before I host retreats, I would have everyone read my book. And this was like the rough draft, the messy, no one had edited this thing yet. But everyone needed to read it, because when you show up, we all need to be on the same page and all be at the same starting line, so that when the gunshot fires, we can all, go from the same starting point. This is going to be a fun endeavor, because Kasim, I've never done anything knowing within 90 minutes. Every time it's been very much so a dynamic of engagement with other people in the room, kind of bouncing off of people. So I'm expecting and hopeful that folks will come up and show up and be ready to put comments in the chat, and be conversational. But man, it's really hard if we're willing to be honest, if we're willing to traverse. It's a journey to the soul, and for me, in my experience, and Kasim, I would say, if I'm okay to say this, I think it's the same for you too. And every single person, there's layers, and there's a journey back home for so many of us that we need to go on, and there's roadblocks, and there's demons along the way that we've suppressed and kept in closets, that if we actually want to get home, we need to go through every roadblock and open every door, lest we miss the things that have remained hidden for years, and then they catch us by surprise later. I like to think of it as going into the arena,
Mm.
going in and doing the work and putting in the reps and practicing so that when we get attacked on the side of the road, we know how to defend ourselves. And when the surprise happens, we're not getting dropped off, at death's door, but we are intentionally actually curating the environment where we die and are reborn.
I love that. What you just said, how you phrase that, curating the environment where we die and are reborn. That's been
Mm.
my experience in walking through this with you. And by the way, I don't feel it doesn't feel like a finish line. Actually, interestingly, I feel maybe
Yeah.
I feel so new. I'm
Mm.
40 years old, and yet I feel like I just started
Ah,
because
I
I
love
just started the knowing. You know what I mean? Like I didn't
that.
know up until this point. I've been trying to pretend, you know.
Mm.
And now all of a sudden it's like, well, instead of that, maybe let me just figure out who I really am, and then I can be that. And there's
Yes.
something that's scary about it. It was an amazing opportunity. I got to spend about an hour today with Sharon Srivatsa, the guy who runs acquisitions.com.
So
So
cool.
he's the managing partner. He's Alex and Layla's business partner. Freaking brilliant. Like
I can only imagine.
he's had two separate billion-dollar companies, one public, one private, four exits. He's 45 years old. He's still young, like uh,
Wow.
youngish. I say he's a 40, not young to you. He's young to me. But he posted something to LinkedIn that I actually read on our podcast. He said 5 things I'd say to my 25-year-old self. And
Mm.
the number one is what reminded, as you and I were talking, I was reminded of this. He said, life lessons will be repeated until they are learned. Life
Wow.
doesn't move you to the next level until you've mastered the current one. And so, very
Chills
often,
all over.
well, the thing that's hard about that is for a
Wow.
lot of us, myself included, sometimes it really does feel like life is this great big rock monster that picks you up by your legs and slams you against a wall. And then you think to yourself, like, wow, why would life do that to me? And then it swings you back and it slams you against the wall again. And then you think to yourself, like, wow, poor me, woe was me. And then it picks you up and it slams you against the wall again. And it takes, for some of us, it can take 30 times before
Mm.
you realize, like, oh, I'm supposed to be learning something here.
Mm.
I'm supposed to be learning something here. And maybe more productively, what am I
Mm.
supposed to be learning? Or our new favorite question, why is this for me?
For me. Right.
Why is this for me? And so that's been one of the big unlocks for me on this knowing journey is realizing that maybe, and this is really hard to hear, especially for people that are going through stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe everything's for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I've learned that with you, Christine. Like it's been you guiding me and teaching me and
Mm.
shepherding me through this process. And again, the process isn't done, but man, there's just no better time to start. So again, if you're watching or you're listening, it costs you nothing but time, which is your most valuable resource. But there's no sales pitch, there's no ascension, there's nothing on the other end of this.
Yeah.
Uh, we just want to help, we want to serve, we want you to know, and you deserve to know, and maybe more importantly, or I shouldn't say that, but more accessibly, let's say, what might be a more accessible call to action, because chances are you're not good at taking care of yourself because most people aren't,
Yeah.
but you're probably good at taking care of other people. And the people that love you and the people that you love,
Yes.
they deserve this too. They deserve to know you, the real you, to have you called forth. And it can only be better for everybody that really loves you. And for those that don't or pretend, this is the process by which fractures happen, and they're the best fractures. They're the breakage that should be taking place. So
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the knowing process of Christene, which is why I continue to put her in front of everybody I know. And I really hope y'all join us tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Kasim, thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. And I really appreciate the emphasis on the fact that it's free of money, but time and emotional wherewithal.
Oh
You
yeah, you're gonna do the work.
know?
Yeah,
It's not free. It's actually very costly. Even today, someone in your community, Tommy, we love Tommy. He
Tom
commented.
Schaefer.
He was like, I'm blocking off 30 minutes on my calendar afterwards just for immediate integration. And I thought, one, love that. Like, love how action oriented that is. And y'all, it's going in with the assumption that there is value on the other side and that there's it's like we don't know everything. You said this, which I thought was so accurate. It's that we are never going to arrive. And
Mm,
what joy is that? Because then it's like, okay, well then great, I'll just die now.
yeah.
Like I know everything. And Kasim, even you've said this many times to me and to your community is that you're a creator. But we can't truly be free to create something new if we're shrouded in what needs to die.
Mm.
So there's an element of the necessary removal of that which no longer serves to your point, get to the next level. And then creation blossoms and we're free to actually dream because otherwise we're going to be projecting the past onto the future until we heal from the past and let go of it. And then we can truly move with freedom to create something new. Otherwise, history repeats itself and we do a 360 rather than a 180 and have real change. So I just really appreciated those comments that you made earlier. I think
I
that
like what you just said too. We do a 360 instead of a 180. I've done a lot of that.
mhm,
I don't want to be here. I want to work as hard as I can. And then as hard as I can is 360 degrees. And then I'm
yeah.
like, wow, thank God I did all that work. And it's like, well, maybe let's work more intelligently and more strategically.
Yes.
So I think that's a beautiful analogy. We have a pretty packed house. I'm looking at the guest list. I'm looking at 76 people just from Facebook, not including the 1,300 people that are in my community. Um, this
Hot
is gonna
dog.
be, yeah, this is gonna be a big deal. I'm really excited. Uh,
Me
what
too.
should they prepare for, Christine? Really, like if somebody wanted to go for extra credit
Mm.
and show up tomorrow battle ready, what's the thing that you'd want them to do to have thought about?
I would love if they could do so one, there's a survey. It's what, 5 or 6 questions. It's very, very easy, very brief. But it's helpful because in you answering that, it kind of already predisposes you to be open just with these couple of questions. But if you want extra credit, I would take time tomorrow morning, schedule 20 minutes to answer 2 questions. The first is, what is your why today? What is literally getting you up out of bed? What's motivating you to live, not just exist, but to live, right? We talked about that. Like there's a difference between existing and living. Like what is your why for experiencing the world? And if we really think about that, like if I actually close my eyes and sit with that question, what's my why? Even as I think that, Cosmo, I actually get a little pit in my stomach right now. And I'm like, oh, like what? Why do I get a little pit in my stomach? So this is literally my process. And for those of you who have watched the Knowing podcast, there's 2 podcasts where I do them solo. It's got the camera on, and I will literally just in real time with you just do this little exercise of getting aligned in that moment of like closing my eyes, just taking a couple deep breaths and sensing where do I feel emotion in my body. And we've done that together before too. And the reason why that's important is because whatever's coming up, whatever kind of physical sensation, that's intelligence, that's data.
Mm,
There's data there to that question. So when I sit with my why right now, I'm like, oh gosh, I actually feel nervous for tomorrow. I feel a weight of responsibility. I feel this is so important. This topic is so important to me. And so even as I'm talking about it even more right now, I'm getting more butterflies in my stomach. So but those butterflies have something to tell me about just how much this matters to me, how much this is so important. This is like the thing that gets my heart beating, my body engaged and activated. And so for someone else sitting with that question of why, what does your body have to reveal to you as you start traversing the whole question of like, why do I do what I do every day? And if you start feeling weird or you start realizing that you're actually numb, that's really important data. That's really, really important. And then continuously asking why of whatever shows up for you. That's just like the most basic kind of pursuit of pulling on a thread and kind of traveling down the yellow brick road to the genesis and origin story. And that's really what we're actually going to be looking at tomorrow is what are those core origin stories that shape you and who you are? Because the more we can understand those origin stories and origin moments that shape who we are today, the more we can understand where they have power over us versus propelling us forward. There's a big difference over something owning us versus being a propelling power as we move into the world and get to the next level. Thinking of our life as a gamification scenario, so to say. So I would say that's number one is really sit with that why and then keep asking why until you get to the heartbeat. And then two, I'd want to see, you know, what is potentially getting in the way? Like, is there something that would be getting in the way for me to show up and be honest with myself? Like, what am I afraid that I'll find? And I think that that's really important. Just acknowledging, like, I actually am afraid that I won't be as perfect as I pretend to be. Like that's one of mine that I found in the past. Like what am I afraid that I'll find? What is potentially keeping me safe today, but also keeping me blinded to the truth?
I love that. Why? What's my why? And what's stopping me? I like
Yeah.
the way you phrased it on the follow up. What am I afraid that I'll find?
Mm.
I'm so afraid that, and I think this is true of all people that have been a little successful. I'm afraid it was just a fluke.
Mm.
Right place, right time. You know, like I get to be on all these podcasts and I presented to 500 people the last 3 days.
Wow.
500 people showed up every single day for 3 days to hear me spreck in the bushy babble. And they were asking questions that sometimes I didn't know the answer to, you
Yeah.
know?
Right.
And I'm in a place now in life where I can say, you know, I don't know. And I do wonder, I'm like, do I really deserve to be here? Or was I just
Yeah.
lucky, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway,
So
I'm
good.
so excited for everybody who's listening and watching to experience the
Me
magic
too.
that is Christine Marie. Tune
Magic.
in. What was that?
The magic of knowing.
The magic of knowing.
Yeah.
The easiest place if you're watching this and you don't know where to go to school.com/3XF. The number 3, the letter X, the letter F. It's free. It's free forever. When you join the community, you'll see an event on the calendar. You'll see postings in the thread. Sign up for the event. We're meeting on Google Meet,
Mm.
which, to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever run a Google Meet that's going to be this big. So we're going to see. You don't have any limitations on your Google Meet, do you?
I will confirm.
Yeah. Because that happened to us, by the way. The AEO thing we just did, Perry, we broke Zoom.
Really?
Yeah. We couldn't let people. Zoom was just like, too many people want to be in this meeting. We're like, oh, God.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to go check. I'll go check that now.
Yeah. Go make sure that there are no time or capacity limitations on Google Meet. And we'll see everybody there.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
you. Thank you for tuning in.
And
Christine, this isn't my show. You finished the show. I'm so sorry. Look at me.
oh, well, I was just about to say, Frankie Finn, right at the beginning, you were like going deep.
Don't give
And
him any attention. Don't let him. Don't flatter him with none of that. I don't know why I haven't blocked Frankie on Facebook yet.
Made me laugh. Frankie, we love you. Y'all, thank you so much for tuning in to The Knowing Show. I will see you tomorrow, and hopefully we will see you in the Knowing